This episode is part of our new category of shows, health and well-being, and we're going to be talking about alternative therapies. In no way is this to be construed as medical advice. We are just giving our personal opinions as well as our personal experiences of the different alternative therapies we are discussing in today's show. Always consult an expert. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Naked Coach Collective. I'm sick of doing intro, so we're just going to dive right in. And today we're talking about alternative therapies. I completely forgot what we were talking about then, and we've literally just been talking about it. Alternative therapies, and I basically don't really know a lot about this, so I'm going to be very curious, and hopefully I ask questions that will help the audience understand what these different alternative therapies are, along with me understanding what they are. We've got a list of a couple of things, but let's start off with B, and I think you picked out aromatherapy massage as
Oh,
one
I
of your
did.
main ones. Is that right?
I did, yeah. So aromatherapy massage is something I have had on and off since I was probably in my 20s. And I'm quite a bit older than that now. and it's
Shut up.
oh, right. And it's something that I go back to all the time. I think I love massage anyway. Okay. And aromatherapy massage is using oils that complement how you're feeling, for instance, or what you. So if I mean, I don't know all the ins and outs of it because I'm not the expert. I go to an expert, and that's good for me. And we have a discussion about how I'm feeling and what kind of thing that I might want on my body, and that's used in the oil, so the smell is there, but it also, as they massage it into your skin, obviously it helps to penetrate your body from the outside to in. So along with the massage, which for me is so relaxing, I carry a huge, and most people do, huge amount of stress in my shoulders, and I know when I'm doing it because they're up here. They feel like they're up here. um, and the other place that not maybe so many women, but men particularly carry stress is in their buttocks. And yeah, it's sort of another place. And I just know that if I have a massage, even if it's just a half body, and it includes my shoulders, I just know that I'm going to come out feeling. I feel a bit, to be honest with you, I feel so relaxed, but it also makes you very tired. So they always say things like drink plenty of water afterwards because it can dehydrate you. They always say you should go home and relax, which is absolutely true. Um, so if for me, I think as an alternative therapy for release of stress, for it can, and it can be, I mean, aromatherapy massage can also be used to help, like like if you tear a muscle or if you do that, you can go obviously to a sports therapist, and they will do it as well, but you can use aromatherapy. And I think the thing I love about it, if you don't go to the same place, I like the question when they say, and they'll always ask, how much pressure would you like? Because some people are very light massagers, other people are heavier. And for me, there's that balance is I want to feel it, I want it to release the knots that you feel when they're sort of working on you. But at the same time, I don't want to be jumping out of my I don't want to be jumping off the bed. So there is that balance, but definitely for me on the harder side rather than the softer side. Um, and I just think for your well-being generally, so whether you've pulled anything or not pulled anything, and whether you think you're stressed or you think you're not, for your well-being generally, giving your body that time where you can just switch off. And I know some people talk through it, but I like to be quiet. I generally fall into like a not sleep, but just that total state of relaxation, and I love it. And I think alternative therapies are becoming so much more popular. people are more inclined to want to try things alternate, like things that don't involve um, medication, like actually standard medication, and also going to the doctors, because who can get a doctor's appointment anyway? So
Yeah.
I would always, I'd rather go and try and help relieve my stress levels if I'm having a particularly difficult time to something like that than I would go to the doctors and be put on some kind of, you know, antidepressant tablets or whatever.
So is it just basically a massage?
It's a massage with oils that will help. So that's what I could say. It's really difficult. So I don't know all about the oils, but every oil that's used in aromatherapy has a property to it. So it will do something for your body. Okay. So lavender, for instance, relaxes you. Okay, helps relax the body. But then you'll get other oils that do different things. And so what they'll do is have a conversation with you, and they'll mix up the oils that they feel are relevant for that particular massage. So it's, you're getting a two-pronged approach. You're not just getting a massage, you're getting it with beautiful oils, smell amazing, make your skin feel great, but also have properties to them that are going to help you. In whatever, so like I said, everybody chooses it, so you can go and you have a conversation about how you're feeling, and they'll put different things together. I don't really ask all the time what they're doing. We'll have a conversation, and I let them use their expertise and put the oils together. And I've never had a bad experience yet. I've always thoroughly enjoyed aromatherapy massage.
I had one once, just once, and as you were talking, I remember. She actually gave me the oils to smell beforehand. We had the conversation, like you said, and then
Yeah.
she said, "Do you like this one? Do you like this
Yeah.
one? Which one do you like?"
Mhm.
And I do. I'm quite. I do have quite a strong sense of smell, so there were the grassy ones that I really didn't like.
Mhm.
I much prefer
Mm.
a sweeter smell. So it's a really lovely experience. Yeah.
And actually, people think, oh, it's just massage. Actually, they have to learn. I know because my mum went through the course. Yeah, my mum went through the course and did aromatherapy massage for quite a few years, and she was good at it.
Nice.
And she went through the course, and you have to learn all about the oils and their properties and what they do, because you have to be really careful with some of the oils out there, things like tea tree and stuff. You have to be really careful how you use those because they can burn the skin. So it's really important that if you are going to undertake aromatherapy massage, you make sure that they know exactly what they're talking about, that they have been trained properly.
Just before we move on to a different one, I feel a question that's quite important, so we can clear it up. How do we pronounce it? Is it
Um,
aromatherapy, or aromatherapy?
I think it
I'm
depends
getting
in which
confused now
part.
because
I,
you're saying it different to how I say it.
Sorry, I think it depends in which part of the country you come from. It's a bit like Scotland scone.
I'm obviously just being a tosser. Uh,
No, yeah, you're right though. I think it's wherever you come from, it's however you say it, isn't it?
uh, yeah, moving on to acupuncture.
Oh,
I think that was D, wasn't it?
I'm a big fan. So and I'm only a fan, last few years. Uh Never really crossed my radar before, but then about 4 years ago, I was really suffering badly with sciatica. And if you've ever experienced sciatica, you know that it's grim, right? It's really not nice. And you do try and go to conventional medicine and the doctors, and they say, "Oh, it'll sort itself out. It'll right itself," or And I was watching the YouTube videos and doing the exercises and um, taking lots of ibuprofen, hot water bottles. I mean, you don't. It's a bit like having a baby. You don't remember how bad it was, but I remember what I was doing. Like I was taking a hot water bottle on a car journey with me, so I could put it on my leg. So driving, that sort of thing, and these alternative things never really occurred to me. And then I went to a local menopause group that I go to. I've mentioned it before, and they had a guest speaker who was an acupuncturist. And Lily, thank you, Lily. I'll give her a little shout out. She is fantastic. So she was telling us, talking about what it involved, and I just thought this is really interesting. Let me listen really carefully, and then go and see her. And I did. So basically, acupuncture, my understanding of it is that it is, well, practically it's really thin needles, like much thinner than a sewing needle, like really very fine needles, and they go into your skin at certain points. Now the points of it is where they go is the most important thing. So in Chinese medicine, they have what they call the qi, which is your energy or your life force. And our bodies have qi, life force, flowing through them all the time. And they flow through what's called the meridians. So any experts out there, if I'm making a hash of this, please feel free to comment. But this is my understanding from Lily. And these meridians run through your body, and they connect certain parts of your bodies, for example your lungs or your liver or whatever, and they, any part of it, they connect it through little channels. So that's why you might say, well, why is she sticking a needle in my foot when actually I've got a pain in my kidney, or in, and because it's on the same meridian, it's on the same channel. So that's how, and then obviously, the experts, the people who have studied acupuncture for so many years, they know which meridians run through which parts of your body and where to put the needles. So the first time I went, it was incredible, because I didn't have any clue what to expect. And she put in we had a chat, talked a lot about how I was feeling, and I was telling her about sciatica. And she put in maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7, I think. And then I had a conversation with her after. I said, I thought, all the pictures and everything I've seen have got people with so many needles stuck in them. And she said, well, that's because the practitioner is making sure they don't miss it, right? Basically, miss the meridian. So your lines of meridian is so precise. She's so precise, that, and she said, I know exactly where it's going. So she's putting it, and she knows exactly where it's going. And I thought that really did give me a lot of reliance. No, what is it? Oh God, my brain. What's happened to my brain?
Faith in her abilities.
Faith. Right. You put a lot of faith in. Anyway, so we had a session, and that was my first one. And I went back about 3 days later for a second. And by the time we'd even come to the third session, sciatica was gone. So, 12 to 18 months I was suffering with this awful, awful sciatica, and she fixed it in between 2 and 3 sessions. It was phenomenal. So I can't, and I know everybody's different, and everybody will have different results. Of course they will. And I feel like I got very lucky with her. So I've been back a few times since. You were saying, B, about the shoulder pain from the stress, and then the neck and the shoulders sort of down the side. So I had that recently, and she fixed that. The acupuncture sorted that out. I've been suffering for about 2 or 3 months from before Christmas, and it sorted it out within one session. So for me, it's obviously something that I would recommend and suggest people try it. However, you know, in readiness for this episode, I did do a bit of research on what the general opinion is, you know, and research, and there have been thousands of clinical researches into the effects of acupuncture. And what I gathered was that Western medicine still doesn't really recognize it fully as being effective, you know, as being a good way to heal yourself in whatever situation. So I think it's a very personal thing. I might have said exactly the same thing 4 or 5 years ago before I experienced it, but for me, it was it is going to be my go-to for ailments as and when they arise, you know. And even, you know, even in the past, I've been to her when I just thought I was feeling just a bit stressed, and she was just whacking a few pins, you know.
That was going to be my question, was, is this just for like a physical pain that you have, or is this for anything else?
If I had loads of money, I would go to her every week. Right, I would, just for a maintenance, just for because what she also does alongside that is something called cupping, which is, you may have seen, you lie on your front, and they're like domes, like plastic domes with a pin in the top, which you put it on your back and suck it, like pull it up a bit, but to suck the skin up and to suck the air out so your skin rises underneath. Now, that I found very scary when she said, "Oh, well, should we do some cupping?" I thought, oh, but as soon as she started to do it, it was so relaxing. It was so like, oh, I love this. Keep it on. It was so good. But there are lots of different types of cupping. Ones where you can have the needle in and then the cup on top, and then you might bleed. You can have it with a fire underneath, but I don't know quite how that would work.
I beg your pardon?
You can
A
have
fire?
a little flame. I think they put a flame on the end of the needle underneath the cup. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't. That would be interesting to explore, but I haven't done that. So the cupping that
Even if you had a hairy back.
Pretty
yeah,
whack.
I don't know if the cups would stick. Do you reckon? Maybe the cups would not stick. I don't know, because they have to suck up the air. Anyway, right. So Chinese
That's
medicine.
a whole other conversation.
Yes, I'm up for it. I'm very interested. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I've had acupuncture, but it was a while ago. I've had it once for my back, like you do, and then I had plantar fasciitis, and it went on for so long, for like a year and a half. It's so painful, and I literally did everything or tried everything. And I tried the acupuncture sort of further down the road. Now, it didn't instantly go, but I'm sure it was like, one of the things that helped along with everything that I was doing, because I knew it worked on my back. So I'd had my back done before, like you, sciatica. So I knew it worked on my back. Uh, I think my biggest problem is that I'm petrified of needles. So if I'm face down, it's all fine. But if I actually see anything, then that's just not good. Even though I know it doesn't hurt.
I don't think I've even ever seen one of her needles going in or anything. Although,
Hmm.
I've never had any pain with any of
No.
the needles, except for one time you put it in my hand, in about here in my hand. Oh my
The base
God.
of the thumb for the listeners.
So yes, so yes, it's sort of base of the thumb. Thanks. Uh, oh my God, that hurts. Right. So, she's even put pins in my head and in ankles and feet. Well, not ankles, but feet and everywhere else. But the hand hurt. And she were and the practitioner, she said to me, I would never do this to anyone on their first session,
Yeah.
because it will just scare them away. She said,
Because
this
they'll never come back.
they'll never come back.
Well, I do know what she means. And
Yeah.
also, sometimes they have to build up anyway to it, because when I had plantar fasciitis, she wouldn't put it she circled around it to start with,
Yes.
because when we got to the nitty gritty and she put it in the direct point, that was uncomfortable, but not so uncomfortable that I couldn't bear it. Do you know what I mean? I just think it's that
Same.
there's a balance, isn't there? So,
Mm.
but yeah, I highly recommend. Sorry, acupuncture. I've had it a couple of times, and I think it's a really great alternative therapy. I really do.
Yeah, I agree.
So I've never had aromatherapy massage. I've never had acupuncture. I've never done cupping. What's next on the list that I've never done?
Oh, one more thing.
Ian,
Reflexology. Go on, B.
you've got a long list to catch up on.
Yeah.
Can I just add one more thing to the acupuncture, if I may? Because it from a Western perspective, if you're not accepting it, that is Eastern medicine, and it's if you want to look at it from the way that it makes you feel, there is evidence to say that it releases endorphins in your brain, and it makes you feel good. And so even just for that, Ian, you were saying, can you go if you haven't got anything wrong with you, just for if it just makes you feel good.
Nice.
Okay, what am I doing, Ian?
Reflexology.
Oh, reflexology. Again, I haven't had anything recently on that, but a long time ago. I can't remember where I was. I was at some kind of like event or something where there was a reflexologist there. I'd never had it done. Totally curious, and had it done. And I think what I'm always amazed about by these medicines, but if you read up on them, you wouldn't maybe be so amazed, is I just never realised how much they can tell about your body from your feet. um, and that was there must have been around the time I was having back issues, because that definitely came up through my feet. But there was, it's just, I mean, I found it really interesting, relaxing to a degree, yes, but really interesting, what they can sense about your body, and that both feet aren't the same. So,
sorry, B. What is it? What do they do? Is it like just a foot massage?
it's a sort of, it's like a massage, but then they feel the like points and pressure. They touch place like along your toes. I'm doing it on my hand, and they'll tell you things about your body. So they'll tell you um, if maybe you're not drinking enough, if your kidney or livers and stuff are suffering, or they're really, it's really interesting what they can tell you from just, there's pressure points again. I don't know the sort of ethos behind it, because I've not looked into it enough. I think for me, when I have something done regularly, then I look into, like aromatherapy massage. I was so interested when my mum was learning it, um, when she was doing the course, and how she learned all about the oils and what they can do, and because it's not, all these things have like a science base behind them of some description, and if you do it properly, you learn all of that as well.
So what's the purpose of reflexology then? What's
It is
why would
relaxation.
I go to?
It is relaxation. One of the biggest
Okay.
things is relaxation, but they also, just as part of the reflexology, is they will tell you things about your body, that you may or may not know, and I
I
agree.
find it fascinating and cannot get my head around how on earth they can tell you're not drinking enough by touching your toes.
There's obviously a way, so you can ask anybody out there who's expert in it. As I say, I haven't had it done for quite a few years now, but it was just, I just love anything alternative to find out, to try to see what I think about it, but also to like just see what comes out of it. I'm always that we should always be open to alter. We live in a westernized world where we're very much channeled into
Buy
drugs.
these pills.
Well, we are, aren't we? And then all very much like think there's a cure. We all how can I say this in a nice way? We think there's a cure for everything, no matter what we do to our body, right? No matter how we treat our body, we think there's going to be a cure for everything. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So we think that we just think there's going to be a cure for everything, and we think that comes in the form of drugs that are produced in a wherever and tested and whatever. And I get that, right? I get all of that, but actually, there have been therapies that have been used for years and years and years. Started out like, where people learn, and what were they called? Medicine men, I think they were called then, who learn about what the land grows and what you can get out of it and how it can heal or harm. Or do you see what I'm trying to say? And I think we use too much synthetic stuff that we produce in a laboratory. And I know that's required and needed for lots of reasons, but there are, if so, for instance, when it comes to menopause, if I hadn't have been so early, I would have tried homeopathic remedies first before going down the route of having to have HRT, for lots of reasons. But unfortunately, because I was only 38, and because of the history of my family of osteoporosis and osteoarthritis, it would have been a very risky option to take. But I do think that sometimes it's really worth thinking out the box for things.
Agreed.
Rather than, for instance, I can't take anti-inflammatories because I'm asthmatic. I can't take them internally. So when I had sciatica, that wasn't an option for me.
That's a
Yeah.
worry. Don't know
So
how
there's
I would have done without it.
exactly. So there's not much else. So if you don't look further, you're going to be in pain. And this is what I'm saying. If you have, I don't do well with a lot of drugs, a lot of synthetic drugs. I struggle a lot when I've had them in the past. I've been allergic, or I've had really upset stomachs, or I'm sick as a dog with them. And I just always think that if I try and keep myself reasonably healthy and take regular certain things on a daily basis. And a couple of weeks ago, I had a horrible, horrible cold. I got stuck with the horrible sort of like throat and chest after it, but I didn't go to the doctors. I will be the last person to go and get antibiotics unless I really need them, because it will just wipe out all the good stuff that's left in your body, and then you're just open to catching everything else. So, it's, for me, I like to look at the pros and cons of everything. But that's just me.
Pros and cons of the next one on our list, which I'm really fascinated about because it just really intrigues me, is hypnotherapy.
Oh, I've never had it. That's a D one, I think, isn't it?
That is. Just to finish off on your reflexology, and Ian asked the question, how can you figure out what's going on in the rest of your body through your feet? Well, it ties in back to your meridians and your ancient Chinese and Eastern medicines, where there's these flow through your body, your chi through your body ends in your feet. So of course it just makes sense to you.
Connected.
Look at your feet, yeah. So it's connected. It's all
I just see feet.
You just
I just see feet.
Yeah,
These
but
hairy toes
you've got
looking
all
back at me.
No, you've got all these channels running through your body. They end at your feet.
They do.
So that's where you can see where there's blockages and things, and it comes out that
And
way.
that's why grounding, like I do in the on cold grass, is really connecting with the earth and into your body, because everything flows out and up. So
yeah, love that. But hypnotherapy, okay.
Intriguing, this one.
It's a subject that I'm very interested in, more so of late than in the past. Whereas in the past, I've had hypnotherapy, and I had it for trying to lose weight. So I wanted to get my head in the game, trying to lose weight, and it was a good 15 years ago, maybe. I didn't know anything else about any kind of alternative therapies. I didn't really know anything about well-being, or it wasn't in my radar, if you like, as it is now. And I would say for hypnotherapy, it's really important to do your research. It wasn't successful for me. I didn't ever feel like I was under. I don't think you're supposed to feel like you're under. I think you're just supposed to be in a really relaxed state. But it didn't. I never got to that relaxed stage because I didn't really do enough background, or the therapist didn't really tell me enough about what to expect. Maybe she thought I knew what I was talking about, what I was in for. So my view on hypnotherapy is I definitely think there's a place for it. There's definitely a place for getting to that level of relaxation where you can open up parts of your brain that you don't use in your conscious mind. We use what 5% of our brain
Yes, to
capacity in our
say,
conscious mind.
mm.
If you're getting into a real state of relaxation and deep hypnotherapy, you might be able to access some more of what's going on in your brain that you don't generally do. So I think for that reason, it's definitely something that is on my radar, and I'm very, very much looking forward to learning more about it, and just getting involved in it a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But from my previous experience of it, I don't think she was the right practitioner for me. I don't think I did enough research. I thought, oh, let me try hypnotherapy and see if it'll help me get my mind in the right place to lose some weight. And it kind of it wasn't right. But
Mm.
that's not because the therapy wasn't right. It was because the circumstances for me at the time were not right. So I would say, yeah, go for it. Don't expect to go under, or
Mm.
to, I don't think that is what happens. Don't forget
But
to
you don't
include.
recall walking around the room like a chicken then.
Yeah, I don't think you. Yeah, I mean, Ian might be able to do that because he probably does it anyway. But yeah, it's
Well, that was uncalled for.
well, no, I think it certainly was.
What?
Right, listeners, Ian. Before we started recording, Ian was being really, really obnoxious to us. Bolshy. He was being bolshy. So
What did I do?
Ian. But I think my response was, okay, then flip off. Something.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
Anyway,
I
so
was being a tosser. Yes.
you were. So I
Okay,
think
deserved. Well, I'm a little disappointed now, not at you, Dee, but at the fact that you don't know more about it and you didn't experience it to the fullest for me to kind of
about
understand it a bit better myself.
yeah, I'm really sorry about that, because I don't want to speak about I know it's such a huge subject. It's such an interesting subject, and it's not something that I could swat up on for a couple of days before recording it
Yeah.
and say I know enough about it to talk about. I could just talk about my experience of it, but from a really positive perspective that I will definitely be exploring it further in some way to see. I can tell you that you're not gonna. I don't know, it might fall asleep. Maybe you fall asleep and they talk,
Well, there's
Yeah.
as you were saying then, when you get into this kind of relaxed state, you can start to access this part of your brain that you don't currently use in your conscious.
Mm.
And I read a study, and they were saying that just as you starting to fall asleep, you're in a state if you're falling asleep when you're really relaxed,
Yeah.
you're in a state where you can learn anything at
Yeah.
such a higher degree than at any other time during the day. And so they were
Mm.
saying, when you're in that state, it's then good to kind of plug in
That's right, yeah.
and start to learn a new subject or something, because you'll take on board everything they're saying so much better than if you were just like sat in a classroom when you're a kid.
Have you tried that?
No.
You know what? I've tried it, right? I've tried that when I was studying. And I thought, I could just sort of play the lectures back and And this wasn't, not when I was a young person studying, second time around kind of thing, and I must have been doing it wrong, because I'd put it on and I'd fall asleep and let it, and then I couldn't recall it anyway, right? So in the morning I'd be like, oh, what was that about? And try, I couldn't remember it. So what's the bloody point?
What the freaking hell was that?
The nearest experience I've had with hypnotherapy was for trying to lose weight, and I think it was a book I read on Paul McKenna. Imagine you've got a gastric band or something.
God, okay.
Yeah,
Right.
and it obviously never worked. But yeah, somebody recommended it to me, and when that going through and see people don't, when I was going through my time so desperate to be, that model image, whatever that shit is now, that I don't conform to anymore. But yeah, and I remember it wasn't just things I ate; it was like things I tried and read, and it was just madness time. But I think it's imagine yourself with a gastric band or something like that. Okay, well, it didn't work. So, but
we know now, don't we, that to lose weight you have to change your mind. It's not just changing your actions, it's changing what happens in your brain. It's reprogramming yourself to create new habits, and and it goes back onto, it's all habits.
That's why I don't like diets. Diet's not changing your behaviour, it's just telling you to eat this for a bit.
Yeah.
It's
just, and as soon as you stop, you put
me.
it back on, and it has to be a lifestyle.
It's amazing it's amazing the fact that we'll eat things we don't like if we think it's going to help us lose weight. Now, how are you going to do that long term? It's just it's madness. But there you go.
Weight issue is a big thing, and
That's a whole
there
other
are weight
issue.
loss coaches out there, right? There are weight loss coaches out there, and it'd be very interesting. We should try and get one on.
Off you go. I'd like to hear more. I'd like to hear more about hypnotherapy from anybody out there who's experienced it and what it's for, because I'd love to know more about it. I think.
Do you know who's a hypnotherapist?
Who?
One of our guests. Do you remember Zinat?
Oh,
she is a hypnotherapist. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Cool. I just found it a really. It's not something I've ever experienced, and I've only watched the silly stuff on TV. So I'd just love to know how it works and what happens.
I can't picture it happening where they go,
no,
now you're under. Is that what they did to you, Dee? Is that why it didn't work?
No, see, I think that's just all like for telly, isn't it? So.
Yeah.
No, I mean, the experience was, I was in a room with her, sat comfortably on the chair. It wasn't lying down. She was sitting with me and just talking to me, really, and talking about trying to make me, trying to bring my awareness to the different parts of my body, different, sort of making me feel. I remember she said, let's think about your feet, how they have to carry your weight and your and it I mean, I'm not sure that she was. I've only had the one experience, the one person experience, so I did give it a good shot. I think I went about four times maybe in the course. I did do the course, but
to me that just sounds like meditation. You can get in that same state through meditation, which is probably, I don't know, and I love alternative therapies, but if you want to get on and try something yourself and you've never tried meditation, and people go, oh, I couldn't sit there and do nothing and do this and do that. There's so many different forms of meditation, and I wouldn't be without it.
No, you meditate every day, don't you?
As much as I can, yeah. It's not as often as I'd like now at the moment, but I just find it puts me, well, it depends what I'm doing it for. Sometimes it's to relieve anxiety, sometimes it's to reduce my stress, and other times it's just to relax me, just to give me that space away from the world.
As you were as you were saying, then there's loads of different types of meditation. My idea of meditation has always been sat there cross-legged
Yeah.
with your
Yeah.
hands on your knees like that, just sat there and thinking about
Mm.
nothing, trying to like empty your head. But when you were saying that, then there's like different versions of it. It kind of took me back to when I used to do yoga, and after yoga, you just lie there, and then they'd like say all this stuff in the background, like you just said, D, feel your feet, and then
Yeah,
like
yeah.
feel your shins and your legs and your thighs and then like your whole body, and I just sit there and be like so relaxed.
Mm.
I'd end up falling asleep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just love it.
We saw.
Time for a nap after me yoga.
But I just think, and I think you have to try lots of different ones to decide what's right for you. And if you're going to have any kind of guided meditation, for me, the voice has to be right. It has to be the right sound, the right accent. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's really important. And sometimes I will flip between 2 or 3 different types depending on my mood as well. But you know, breathe. The Vipassana is just breathing, but it's breathing meditation, and that is a really, really good thing to do. But it's not easy to not like to try and focus. You have to keep bringing yourself back. Your brain runs at 100 miles an hour. It's always running off in different directions. But actually, there is a technique that's much harder than people think.
Definitely think the accent thing is important, because and I know this because I'd listened to a lot of audiobooks, and
Yes.
when I've read a book, I know I like the book, and I thought, oh, I'll see what the audio version's like, but I cannot stand the narrator. I just do not want to listen to it. I'm like, I just listened to the like little preview clip. I'm like, nope,
No, yeah. It's so true.
nope. But D, you do meditations.
Yeah, I've I
Do you want to give
have
us a preview of one of your meditations now? Put on your meditation voice.
Okay, all right. Well, just before that, I mean, I've just to say, I've created a few meditations. For some of them are general or specific needs of clients. If they request it and if they're interested, I will make one for them. But it starts with a relaxation, starts with some breathing, and we go into whatever it is that they want to talk about or they want to feel as they're relaxing and in their meditation. For example, I've got one on visualization. So if you're thinking about what to do and you're stressed about which way your life is going and what kind of choices you have, and so my meditation will just sort of imagine yourself feeling in a deep state of relaxation. We'll talk through relaxing parts of your body, as you did, Ian, talk about when you had your end of your yoga lesson session. And then my guided meditations would just sort of nudge you to think about things in this, not in my way, in your way. Think about what do you visualize? What do you see? And I will always encourage you to say, take 10 minutes, 15 minutes, however long it is. I haven't done any long ones. And just make sure this time is for you. Are you all right there, love?
I'm very sorry about that, but the dogs obviously run under my laptop and pulled the plug out, and suddenly my it was showing me a low battery.
Right. So what
Joy
it
to
is?
the new doggy.
Thanks, doggy. Just basically just make you aware of yourself, your body, your mind. Relax your thinking. It's not a case of take everything else out of your mind. So I would say something like, if interfering thoughts come into your head, then just imagine that they are clouds floating in the blue sky. Imagine that they're just raindrops falling around you. Whatever situation you've created for yourself in this moment of meditation, let that be. Life is surrounded by interruptions. There'll be the dogs pulling the plugs out. There'll be children on the street outside. There'll be, cars rushing, but whatever there will be, there will be. But that doesn't need to interrupt your meditation, because you can just accept it, acknowledge it. Oh, okay, there's a dog barking, and pass it on,
Mhm.
pass it away.
I was just trying to find one of the ones that you sent me. I was just going to start playing it.
Oh,
can't
that
find
would
it.
be lovely. I tell you which, the latest one I did was I did one for a student, an older student doing professional exams, and she was really finding it hard to sit down and start studying, right? So I did this for her, and it's only 10 minutes, and so she does that before, to get her into the zone for hitting the books, which is rather good.
Mm.
Excellent.
Mm.
Well, I think we kind of hit the time barrier there. It's gone quite a bit there, hasn't it? So
Can I just say very quickly, guys, if any of you want to try my meditation, my email address is at the bottom of this whatever you're listening, watching on. I'm plugging it because Ian hasn't done yet. So
we've not even finished recording it, and you're having a go at me about not doing it. Jesus, today.
tell me, I want to send it to you. I want all you listeners to have a listen and tell me what you think.
All right. Anything else?
No, I think you could go on for ages about alternatives in terms of therapies. And I think, from my perspective, and I'll just finish on saying, is I think it's always, yes, we need doctors. Yes, we need medication. I'm not saying we don't. But always, to me, I'm always looking at what is the other options, especially if I know that I can't have something, or something doesn't agree with me. And I think sometimes there are less harsh options. That's all. And I just think that sometimes we don't always think out of the box. And like I say, getting a doctor's appointment nowadays is gold dust anyway. Getting any kind of medication that's needed, that they, I just would try, I just think it's worth thinking about alternatives if you've had a bad experience with something, you don't want to take it again, or if you've, if you, like me, and I'm just not a lover of antibiotics. So unless I have got a serious infection, I will always look for an alternative.
I think a final thing I'll say on this, my input to this episode, apart from
please join us
asking
here.
you 2 questions, was just to get outside. So this is more for if you're stressed, if you're feeling depressed, all that kind of thing, is just get outside. Mine personally is to get out into the mountains where everything literally just melts away and you're just there in the moment and there is complete and utter peace. So I cannot recommend it enough.
And that's a kind of meditation.
Sorry, say again?
That's a kind of meditation.
Kind of is. So when you're walking along the
Mm.
kind of footsteps on the gravel, the sound of that is very meditative.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a word?
Meditative.
Meditative.
But also,
yeah, no,
thinking,
it definitely is.
there must be moments when you stop to look at,
Oh God, yeah.
Like the beauty of what you do, of what's around you, and
Absolutely.
you do that in quietness, and just that is like meditation in itself, isn't it? It's just,
Yeah, I mean, there's very few times where, apart from before I started going hiking properly, there's very few times where I'd experienced like just looking at something and being in complete and utter awe at what I'm looking at.
Mm.
There was one is when I was up traveling and we were up in Lake Placid. We were staying at a friend's lake house and we were just in the middle of nowhere, pitch black, and the sky. I can't. It is so hard to describe how incredible that night sky was. Like you could full on see the Milky Way in all its glory. It was mind blowing. And the second thing was And I've always seen pictures of this and thought, not that bothered. But when I went, I was just stood there, and the Grand Canyon, that that's just an absolute beast. It's incredible. It's incredible. Like you just stood there in complete awe, looking out at it, and you're kind of lost for words, and you just like, wow, I am really pretty insignificant, and my problems are pretty insignificant. It's incredible.
The world
But I
is a
kind of
big,
get that a
powerful
lot
place.
now when I go out hiking in the mountains and whatever. You just perspective is you do get a good perspective on things when you see stuff like that. And that's all I've got to add to this show. So I think we'll wrap it up there. Like, subscribe, share this episode, and remember, folks,
Until next time, be there.
be there.
And being naked.